He had an 800 credit score, better than most people ever achieve. 12 years without a single missed payment.
Then, on a random Tuesday in October, his phone lit up with a credit alert that made no sense. By the end of that day, Daniel Reyes learned that one overlooked detail could undo years of discipline.
Because it was something most people don't even know to check.
Daniel Reyes was the kind of person other people asked for financial advice. 34 years old, a project manager at a mid-sized construction firm, married just under a year.
He didn't make a fortune, but he never needed to stretch. Every bill paid in full. Every statement checked before it was due.
12 years of credit history and not one late payment. Not one.
He and his wife had a plan. Save for 18 more months, then buy their first home.
Daniel had already run the numbers a dozen times. With his credit score sitting at 800, he knew he'd qualify for one of the best mortgage rates the bank could offer. He wasn't worried.
He kept 3 credit cards open. One he used for groceries, one for gas, one he barely touched, kept only to maintain the length of his credit history. He knew that trick. He knew a lot of tricks.
That was the problem. Confidence, when it comes to money, has a way of turning into blind spots.
In October, Daniel's father was hospitalized unexpectedly. Nothing life-threatening, but serious enough that Daniel flew out of state for 8 days to be there.
He packed in a hurry. He told his wife he'd handle everything from his phone. He always did.
What he didn't think about was the card he barely used, the one sitting quietly in a drawer, the one he kept open just to protect his credit history.
A small annual fee had posted to it months earlier, one he'd forgotten to account for, sitting untouched, unnoticed.
Accumulating a due date that came and went while Daniel was in a hospital waiting room 3 states away.
31 days after the due date passed, the card issuer reported the missed payment to the credit bureaus.
Daniel came home 8 days later. His father was recovering. Life, for a moment, felt back to normal.
He had no idea that somewhere in the quiet of that week, something had already changed. Something he wouldn't discover for weeks. 3 weeks passed. Daniel went back to his normal routine. Work, dinners with his wife, weekend errands. Nothing felt different. Then came the letter from the mortgage lender, asking to schedule the pre-approval meeting they'd been planning for months. He wasn't worried. If anything, this felt like the final step before everything he and his wife had worked toward. The following week, Daniel sat across from his mortgage loan officer, expecting a formality. What he got instead was a pause he didn't expect.
"There's a derogatory mark here," he said. 31 days past due, reported last month.
Daniel asked him to check again. He did. It was real.
His score, the 800 he'd built over more than a decade, had fallen by over 100 points in a single reporting cycle. The rate he'd been counting on for their mortgage was gone. In its place, a higher rate, a bigger monthly payment, and a timeline that suddenly didn't work anymore. He went home and told his wife. The conversation wasn't angry. It was worse than angry. It was quiet. She asked how this could happen to someone as careful as him. He didn't have an answer. For the first time in years, Daniel didn't feel ahead of the curve. He felt like a stranger to his own finances. Weeks passed. Every account he now checked obsessively. Some days, several times a day. The home they wanted stayed just out of reach. A few $1,000s a year further away than it had been a month earlier. Daniel didn't fix this overnight. Credit damage from a missed payment doesn't disappear the moment you understand why it happened. It eases gradually, month after month. He called the card issuer
explained the circumstances, and asked whether the reporting could be reconsidered.
The issuer's answer wasn't a full reversal, but they agreed to note the account and confirmed there'd be no repeat unless something changed. That same afternoon, Daniel sat down and did something he should have done years earlier. He set every account, including the one he barely used, to autopay the minimum, permanently.
6 months later, his score hadn't returned to 800, but it was climbing steadily.
And this time, nothing was left unwatched.
Here's the takeaway, and it's simple. Your credit score doesn't reward how much money you have. It rewards consistency, especially on accounts you might forget.
If you have a card you rarely use, that's fine. Just make sure autopay or a reminder is protecting it the same way it protects the cards you use every day. One overlooked account shouldn't be able to undo years of doing everything right.
If this story changed the way you see money, subscribe to Economic Mystery Files.
Every week, we uncover the hidden stories, psychology, and decisions behind money, helping you make smarter financial choices and make your money work for you, not against you. Follow the money. Find the truth.